Hello and welcome back to Song Surveys on Sofas with Superheroes, the sub-series. So last week I did a new song, and so this week is an old song, and this song is like no, don't get me wrong. There is a lot musically going on, but this is really a song about the lyrics. This is like a storytelling song, so it's a lot of lyric, but it is really good. So yeah, let's get into it. The song is The Wondersmith and His Sons by Astronautalis, Astronautalis. And the song is just like really such a story, and it is definitely an interesting story at that, so it makes it really good. For a long time, I thought instead of Wondersmith, it was Wordsmith, and I actually really liked that because he talks a lot about being charming, and at one point talks about silver tongue and pearl teeth, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But no, it's Wondersmith, which I think, again, I like a little bit less. I think if it was Wordsmith, it would be cool because, you're like putting words together, wordsmithing. But anyway, so the piano comes in as the lyrics begin. You hear like maybe one or two notes before the lyrics actually start. And he talks about being a soldier and follows up with the lines, sweating through the pain of digging his foxhole that he knows is just a grave. So I really love that idea of, someone who's like suffering through the pain, even though he knows, right? It's not that he could be or might be or will end up being. It's that he already knows it, but this person is still like willing to suffer through this pain to dig this foxhole that he basically just knows he's going to end up dying in. So I thought that was really interesting, and I really liked the choice of words, and was especially the word no in that part. And so then this like super fantastic thing happens, and I just like love this part of the song, and it's just all these little details that this artist put into it. It just makes it's so good. This song is so good because of these little things. So the line is, "Let's walk along the wire and watch the muzzles flash like lightning," which in and of itself is a great line, right? So, you picture, again, this person in war, right? And I, again, kind of picture like this wire being like the horizon maybe of this battlefield, and, just like, that people are just going to be opening fire on you. So you're going to see these, guns light up like lightning. And again, it kind of sets the tone for the setting too, right? Terms like muzzle, right? You're thinking like an old school gun. So I really like how the setting is also super important in the song, at least like the timing of the setting, not necessarily the place, but the time. And it's like so flawlessly just integrated in, and you kind of don't even realize it's happening until you're like, oh, wait a minute, that totally put me in that time zone and made me think of this thing. So I really like that. And again, it kind of starts with this first part of, the foxhole. You're thinking like during, World War I, World War II sort of a thing. And then, you have this image of muzzles for guns. So I think it's definitely a good choice word-wise. But anyway, during this line, as they're like leading up to the word lightning, the music kind of starts to build, but it's not even music. It's almost like humming, like someone is humming. And then all of a sudden it's just, like this big boom hits you right in the face. So excellent. Like, love that part. It's just like, again, it's just so grabbing. It just makes it so different and unique. So I really, really like that. And then this other voice starts singing along with the singer as the chorus starts. And so the chorus begins the same every time. It has the same opening lines, but then every time the ending is different. And again, it kind of goes along with the storytelling, right? So the first chorus kind of relates to what has already been discussed, and then the next chorus, and so on and so forth. But what I love about the first time is you get double use of the word understand and double use of the word hand. And so sometimes I don't really love when bands reuse words, especially in a chorus, just because, it's like one section of the song, so it's like really couldn't think of a better like synonym to kind of get around that. But this time in this song in particular, it really works for me, and I think it's fantastic. So, understand, right? The first line is, "A smile, safe crackers, understand," which I don't know what that means. If you know what it means, please comment, because I would love to know. I really don't know. I mean, I have a couple like weird guesses, but I don't know. And so then later on in the chorus, it says, but you could never understand, no, not me. So you can't understand me. So again, I like that this one thing does understand, but you can't understand me. So I like the almost like difference, the contrast in that. And then the word hand, I super love because it's multiple meanings. So not only is it used twice, but it's the different meaning is used. So I really like that. And the lines are back to back this time. So I think that makes it has such a good effect. So the line is, rendering this steady hand obsolete, and you thought you caught my sleight of hand. So I really love that those are, again, like steady hand, right? And then sleight of hand. I think that was really well done. But also when they sing obsolete, it kind of like changes a little bit. And it's, again, just a fantastic, subtle thing where the word is like held a little bit longer. Really good choice. I really love that. And yeah, definitely love. And I also just love the word render and obsolete. I feel like I need to start using those in my vocabulary more. Like just, oh yeah, no worry. Just gotta render it. Oh no, that was totally obsolete. Like I just love those words. It's so good. And I also love the idea of this steady hand, right? So you have this steady, like confident kind of, something you can rely on. And now it's becoming obsolete, right? So this thing that he's singing about is making this like pillar of strength in his life like useless. So I like that idea too as well. Okay, so then there's a few notes that kind of get played before the next verse starts. And this verse is really long. It's almost like 3 different sections. And again, like this is like where the storytelling part really, really comes in. And this is why I love this song so much. So this verse starts and the music is more full than the original first verse. So you have, more of that full percussion and more of that full sound. So this part of the song establishes his family, the first part of this verse. And it talks about his dad and his brothers. So, the first line is, "Father was a charming man with much hidden up his sleeve." And then I wonder if this is what he had planned when he taught his tricks to me. And I really love the purposeful words taught, right? And because it makes it very deliberate, right? It's not just like this kid was watching and kind of figured things out based on how his father was acting. Oh, no. The dad like sat him down and was like, "Listen, son, this is how it's going to work. This is how we're going to do it." I think that's really interesting, especially because of what happens later. And, just like knowing that you gave those knowledge and skills to this human being who then takes them and does these things in the future with them. Definitely an interesting concept. And this is not the last time that the song talks about his dad. So again, just like kind of keeping in mind that his father taught him all of these things, purposely taught him these things, makes it super interesting. So then he talks about his siblings and so he has an older brother and a younger brother, and then he kind of like talks again a little bit, and then it's like, and then there was me, and then the music totally changes, right? And it gets so much simpler, but the pace of his words get much faster. So you go from like this more singing to more of like a quickly talking song sort of a thing. So he describes himself as having, like I said before, silver tongue and pearl teeth, right? So that means he is also charming. So I really like how he kind of sets up this story, right? He talks about his family, and even again, he goes back to his dad. He talks about how his dad is charming and his mother being a serene. And when he says that word, the music again changes and shifts, and then like it goes into the next part of the verse. So my favorite part of the whole verse in general in this part is when he says, they found the other skeleton face down in the stream. The youngest was still tucked in bed. That way they thought he was asleep. They moved the mirror from his mouth. The fog that should remain was not to be seen, not to be seen. I mean, talk about an image, right? Just so excellent. I love the idea of that. So I'm not sure who the other skeleton in the stream is, but I would assume it's maybe his brother, because he talks about the youngest was still tucked in bed. That way they thought he was asleep. The image in and of itself just blows my mind. But also the mirror thing, like in my head, I think of that as such an old school doctor's trick, like to see if someone's alive. So again, you're kind of setting this theme of like the time period in which this takes place. And he talks about running away. And so I don't know, I just, again, get this old timey feel with the whole mirror up to the nose thing. Oh, and then I love, so when they sing, the second time they sing Not to Be Seen, the music is like dropped. So I love that, again, that repetition, but it's like a unique repetition and it makes it so fantastic. I really like that change. And I know it's like, again, a subtle thing, but it really does do a good job of making it unique. All right, so then the music picks up again for the third part of the verse. And so this one starts with, again, now this kid is kind of older, right? Because it starts off with, I am the doctor, darling. And so he talks about being like an operating doctor. So, you know, again, so now you went from like this setup of the family to kind of introduce you. And then we get to the, like his childhood part. And, you know, the youngest is still living at home, so it has to, and he was the middle child, and if you assume the one in the river is the oldest child, they all are probably at least at home. And now he's a doctor, right? So now he's in the real world, he has his career, and he's doing stuff with it. But yeah, so I love the line, but I couldn't stand the pain of healing only to watch another woman waste away. So there are two huge reasons why I think this line is fantastic. One, I love that you know, the pain of healing. Like, yeah, healing sucks, man. Healing is not fun when you have to like sit there and you can't do stuff and you're still in pain. And yeah, like I just really love that idea that that healing is painful. It's not a pleasant. You're not just like, oh no, like don't worry, you'll heal up and be fine. It's like, no, the healing part sucks too. Like that's not just like an easy thing to get done and do. So I really love that that was subtly addressed. I think that was really great. And then I also love it because now I feel a little bit like you're like, oh, this poor guy, he like has feelings and loves and he like is sad when other people are hurt. So it just like kind of gives you this like, am I kind of falling for the villain here? Like, am I agreeing with the villain and kind of understanding this perspective and being like, oh, poor guy, when he just killed his brother? Like, I don't know. Like, I just, again, I really love that it kind of makes you get into the story, because oftentimes you do sympathize with the villain when, you know, as a third person, you kind of understand what's going on as an outside party. So I don't know, I really like that. And I like that it was kind of, again, it's just like slowly thrown in there. Like this is all just one massive like verse that has these three separate parts, but this part just makes it, I don't know, it just makes it really good. And I think it, you know, it was a really good choice for that. Okay, and then so after that, the very last lines are, I set this barn on fire and watch, let's set this barn on fire and watch the flames eat up the roof beams. And again, it really just gives you that old-timey feel, and that's what I love about it, right? You're kind of still in this setting, right? I think like old barn with these like beams, and you're setting the roof on fire, and I don't know, I just really love, again, it definitely, for me at least, puts me in that time period. And I really love how kind of every verse you're kind of given these hints of the time. Again, with the mirror and with this whole like roof and barn, right? You think farm, like back in the day where farming was a big thing in our country. So I don't know, I like that it kind of sets up that setting for you. All right, and then so after that, it goes right into the chorus, again, with similar music from the first chorus, and the first couple lines are the same, but then the end is changed. But the one thing that does change is, so it starts with that same music, but then the music totally changes for that word obsolete, and there's this great, fantastic string part that comes in, and the word obsolete is like held for really long, and it's drawn out, and you just hear these strings like going kind of crazy while this one word is being sang, and it is so good, like just so good. And that's what makes me love the word obsolete. Like I just now need to use it all the time just so I can be like obsolete. I love it. It's so good. That addition of the strings was so good, and then that carries on through the rest of the chorus, which again, the end is different from the beginning. So yeah, I really love that part. But anyway, so the end of the chorus is talking about how it's not a crime. Breaking in is not a crime if you're given the key. And so I really like the metaphor of that. Like, you know, you have the key to someone's heart, so you're not really like stealing it, you're not breaking it, you're not stealing it, you're just kind of like, well, you gave it to me, I mean, so I was given it, so it's not a crime. It's not a bad thing that I'm doing here. So I really like that idea of it. I don't know if that was the intention. I mean, it could have been a little bit more literal maybe, especially because, you know, he talks about coming in with women later, so we'll talk about that. So it could literally like mean like, oh no, like she gave me the key because she wanted me to come, but I don't think so. I kind of like that whole, like, you know, you gave me the key to your heart, and especially as a charmer, right? You're a charming man, so you've given me like keys to kind of figure you out, and now like that's not a crime on my part, you gave me the information. So I do really like that. I think that's a cool and clever line. All right, so the music changes really drastically, and there is lots of strings and piano, and it talks about how he's charming and women leave their window open, and so he can come in, and he mentions that his father is charming and that he learned it from him. So again, that's like the whole key part comes in, like where I think it's more of a metaphor than an actual literal thing, or it could be literal, right? The windows, coming in the windows, you leave a crack open and I come in. But again, I really like that it talks about the father again, because especially when you go back to the first verse, it says something about how everyone thought their family was complete. That's one of the lines in the first verse, or when he starts talking about the family. And so I really love that you kind of are like, wait a minute, so the dad was a cheater too, and now you're this cheater, and like, oh, like this is kind of why it was all messed up, right? These people think your family is great from the outside because they don't see what's on the inside, and yet you're this like charming man who is clearly charming these women and crawling into windows at night. So yeah, so I really do like that. And again, like I just love the old-timey feel, right? Like, so if you're leaving a window open, that means you have no screens, right? So it's a time before there was screens, you know, first floor windows probably. So I don't know, you just like think of like these small, quaint little houses with like these like, you know, windows with those old shutters and stuff. So I just like, again, I feel like the setting is super set up here, and I really love that. Okay, so then after that, there's like a huge music shift again, and that's what I kind of love about the song, right? The song musically, you never feel like it's a different song, but there are so many differences and so many ups and downs, and you know, taking things out and adding instruments, that you really do get this story feel, right? You get these distinct chapters of this person's life and what's been going on. So anyway, so then the music changes again. There's this big shift, and it becomes like really full of strings, and more percussion is in the foreground than it previously was. And then this is my favorite line in the whole song. So like complementing cogs and gears, we built a head of steam. The tragic flaw of charming men is exactly as it seems. Too much grease can break down the machine. So I love this because at first he's talking about his dad and how the sons worked as a team. And then he's talking about how this tragic flaw is that too much grease can break the machine. So they kind of like destroyed themselves. And I just love the figurative language of these cogs and gears, right? They're working together. So at first the dad was like teaching the sons his little tricks and things like that. And they were working together. And so, you know, like he would be a good wingman, and then he would come over and do this, and we would be able to like get by. And, you know, oh, I stole this from the drugstore, like, whoops, my bad. Oh, here, my brother, and we're working together. But then eventually, like, they just kind of went too far. So I really like that line. I like the figurative language there. I think it's really great. And again, I kind of love that. So in this person's opinion, it was just too much of themselves that kind of destroyed them. And remember, he apparently killed his younger brother, and potentially the older brother if the other skeleton in the stream was the older brother. So I don't know, I really love that he's kind of like blaming it on themselves, like not necessarily himself, like, oh, it wasn't my fault, it was just that we were all together and had too much of it, so that's really what broke us down. So again, I really like that line. I think it's just clever, and I love the figurative language there. Oh my gosh, don't worry guys, we're almost done, sorry. Okay, so then the music drops for what I would call the bridge. Again, this isn't a super traditional song in terms of like chorus, verse, chorus, because there's a lot of verse before the choruses. But yeah, so it's clearly talking to a bartender like in the town that this person grew up in, because he says, pour another round on me. you know I'm good for it, you know my family. And so I love that they, again, went back to this family thing, right? The song is about his family and the choices that his family made and taught him to lead him to this moment. So I really like that he's, you know, trying to now use his name for this, like, good, right? And especially right after talking about too much grease breaks down the machine. So I feel like he's sitting at the bar going, oh, come on, man, you know me, you know my family. And the bartender's like, yeah, bro, I know your family. That's exactly why I'm not going to give you a drink. So I think that's really cool. I like that. Definitely, again, adds to the story and kind of gives the listener room to think, like, is this really a good thing that he's mentioning his family, or is this something that we need to maybe stop and think about? Is the bartender not actually friendly, and you know, just because he drops this name, like, what does that mean, especially now, especially if he was known to be the killer of his brothers? Like, I don't know, it's just interesting, definitely interesting idea. So anyway, then the final verse, the music comes back in more full, and he's telling a woman that she should pick him over the man that she's currently living with. And, you know, it's like miserable for her, and he's saying, like, you could have so much more fun with me. And they say race down the highway, which again kind of shows this time, right? So you're like, oh wait, now there's cars. Okay, so now we're like further along in this progression, right? So he's like, come on, baby, like, leave, like, come on, we'll come, like, just leave your life behind and we'll just race down this highway. So again, I really like how you go from this old-timey feel, you know, from the trenches to digging your foxhole, to the mirror in the face, to you know, burning this barn down, and you know, you're still kind of in that old-timey, you know, one story, crawling in windows, and then you're brought to this time with cars. So I love, again, this like setting that's just kind of subtly built into the song, and I think it's really great. Anyway, then it goes right into the chorus, and there's no special obsolete this time, which is fine. But I really do love the last few words, or the last few lines, I should say. The line is, the charm and confidence of men can jam the bullets of your gun and stop heartbeats. So I love the like contradiction, right? He's saying that charm and confidence can stop somebody from shooting you, right? You can talk your way out of getting a bullet in your head when you know, can kind of convince that person, like, oh wait, you don't want to do this, trust me, I have this, and we can do this, and this is who I am. And then at the same time, but can still stop heartbeats. Like, it can still kind of like kill somebody. So I don't know, it's like interesting. It can save you, but it can also stop heartbeats. So I love, and I love the word choice, and I thought it was really creative, instead of saying like, oh no, it could like save your life or it could kill somebody. So I like that they did the gun analogy, and then the just stop heartbeats, and you don't necessarily know how or why, but yeah, like being too charming, again, that's the cog part, right? You're going back to this too much grease thing. So yeah, being charming sometimes can stop somebody from killing you, but then being too charming could be like, someone's like, oh no, you think you're getting away with this, you're not, and then you end up dying anyway. So yeah, I thought that was a really great way to end the song, and even better is how the music plays out during that part. So, you know, the music is pretty like full on, and then right when it like just totally drops, and then it goes and stops, heartbeats, and then that's the end. Like, it's just so good. Like, what a great way to end those last three words. Like, just excellent. So yeah, I know this was a long one. Thank you for sticking through. Really great song. Definitely check it out. The video is pretty crazy too. He's being dragged, like with his wrist being pulled by I don't know, pretty cool. Anyway, let me know what you think. Comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week with a new song. Bye.